Welcome to the shadow frequency, where the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
Welcome back to the Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper, and I'm glad you found your way back through the static. I was outside a little earlier, and the sky had that odd, clear look where every star seemed a touch too sharp, almost like something was watching from behind the glass. It was probably nothing. But on this show, probably nothing has a habit of turning into a very large file. Tonight, I pulled one of the most unnerving military UFO cases ever documented. Episode 348 is the Tehran UFO incident of 1976. In the early morning hours of September 19, 1976, residents in northern Tehran began calling authorities about a strange, brilliant object in the sky. At first, this sounded like the kind of thing that might be explained away as a helicopter, a bright star, or a trick of the night. But then military officers started looking up. 2 Imperial Iranian Air Force F-4 Phantom fighter jets were scrambled. The pilots reportedly experienced communications failures, instrument problems, radar contact, and a smaller luminous object that appeared to be detached from the larger one and moved toward an armed jet. That is where a curious light over the city becomes something much stranger. Chris, what do you think when you hear a case like this one?
It is the electronic interference that gets me, June. A light in the sky is one thing, but when trained pilots approach it and their aircraft begin behaving strangely, that changes the entire mood. You are no longer just watching the object. It feels like the object is responding to you.
Exactly. There is something deeply unsettling about the possibility that the pilots were not simply observers. Matt, what stands out to you?
For me, it's the escalation. It begins with ordinary people making phone calls. Then you have military aircraft in the air, instruments going dead, a reported radar lock, and smaller objects emerging from the main light. Every time you think the case has reached its strangest moment, it finds another gear.
And it keeps getting stranger once the sun comes up. Matt, bring us into the file.
You are tuned to the shadow frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. Hosted by Matt Wilson. Produced by Juniper Ravenwood. With Chris Beach. The darkness continues.
Thanks, Juniper. This is one of those files that does not need much decoration because the paper trail is unsettling enough. Tehran, Iran, September 19, 1976. It is shortly after midnight and the city is caught in that strange hour when streets begin to empty but military watchrooms remain wide awake. Iran is ruled by the Shah. The Cold War is humming in the background and the skies matter. Unknown aircraft are not campfire stories. They are possible threats. Around 12:30 in the morning, the command post receives 4 telephone calls from citizens living in the Shamaran area of northern Tehran. The descriptions do not match perfectly. One caller says the thing resembles a bird. Another thinks it looks like a helicopter carrying an unusually bright light. The officers check. No helicopters are airborne. At first, the explanation offered is simple: stars. But after speaking with Mehrabad Tower, the senior officer goes outside to look for himself. What he sees is brighter and larger than a star, hanging over the sleeping city like something waiting for the right person to finally look up. And this is where the story stops being a neighborhood sighting and becomes a military encounter. An F-4 Phantom II is scrambled from the Air Force Base to investigate. Picture that aircraft climbing into the darkness, crews scanning a black sky for a light that should not be there. According to the declassified account, the object is so brilliant it can be seen from roughly 70 miles away. The F-4 closes the distance. At around 25 nautical miles, the aircraft suddenly loses its instrumentation and communications. including UHF radio and the internal intercom between the men aboard the jet. For a fighter crew flying at night, that's a nightmare. But the pilot breaks off the intercept and turns back toward base. As the aircraft moves away, the instruments return. The radios come back. The Phantom seems to wake up again only after retreating from the light, almost as though the thing in the sky had drawn a line in the darkness and quietly warned them not to cross it. I'm pulling one item out of the file here, and is not a UFO magazine or dramatic newspaper clipping. It's a photocopy of the declassified military wire message routed through American defense channels after the incident. The type is faded, the page looks like it has survived decades in a drawer, and some names are removed. But the language is cold and difficult to shrug off. 4 civilian calls, no helicopters airborne, an F-4 launched. The first jet loses instrumentation and communications at 25 nautical miles, then regains them when it turns away. That sequence is sitting there in official prose without a flourish. The report does not sound like someone trying to frighten you. It sounds like someone documenting an operational problem they do not understand. A fighter aircraft has approached an unknown luminous object above a capital city, and the aircraft has gone electronically silent. 10 minutes later, another Phantom is sent into the same sky directly toward the thing that has already shown it can reach into a cockpit without touching the plane. The second F-4 rises into the darkness at about 1:40 in the morning. This aircraft carries the crew most often associated with the Tehran case, including Parviz Jafari, who later spoke publicly about the encounter. The backseater acquires a radar lock at about 27 nautical miles, high at the 12 o'clock position. The reported closure rate is around 150 knots. As the F-4 gets closer, the object appears to move away, holding that eerie 25-mile separation while remaining visible on the radar scope. The return is described as comparable in size to a large tanker aircraft, but visually the crew cannot make out a solid body because the light is too intense. They see rapid flashes in a rectangular pattern, alternating blue, green, red, and orange so quickly that the colors seem visible all at once. Imagine trying to decide whether you are chasing a machine, a signal, or some enormous thing wrapped in light, while it keeps exactly the distance it wants. Then the case takes that turn that made it legendary. South of Tehran, another brightly lit object appears to come out of the primary object. The report estimates its apparent size is somewhere between 1/2 and 1/3 the size of the moon. It heads straight toward the F-4 at a very fast rate of speed, not drifting, not wandering, coming toward them. The pilot prepares to fire an AIM-9 missile, and at the critical moment, the weapons control panel goes dead. The UHF radio and internal communications vanish with it. The men are suddenly in a fast military jet with an unknown light bearing down on them and no ability to respond the way they have been trained to respond. The pilot throws the Phantom into a turn and a -G dive to escape. The smaller object falls in behind them at an estimated 3 to 4 nautical miles, stays with the maneuver, then turns inside the aircraft's path and peels away. It returns to the larger light and rejoins it with a precision that feels less like a random encounter and more like a demonstration. And the demonstration is not finished. Shortly after that smaller object rejoins the primary light, another luminous object appears to separate and travel downward toward the ground at high speed. The crew expects an explosion. Instead, according to the report, the light seems to come to rest gently on the earth, illuminating an area roughly 2 to 3 kilometers across. The crew descends, trying to mark the location. Later, while returning to land, they encounter interference again. Communications drop out along a particular bearing. The inertial navigation system fluctuates. A civil airliner approaching Mehrabad reportedly experiences a communications failure in the same vicinity. And then, on final approach, the F-4 crew notices one more object, a cylinder-shaped form, roughly the size of a trainer aircraft, with steady lights on either end and a flasher in the middle. It passes over the jet, and the tower eventually sees it after being directed where to look. By the time the Phantom reaches the runway, the night over Tehran no longer feels like a sighting. It feels like the sky has opened a door and left it standing ajar. And the sun has not even come up yet. The pilots still have to return to the area in daylight and search for whatever appeared to descend near Tehran.
That is the part that bothers me. Something seems to settle near the ground, but we still do not know what the crew is going to find waiting for them.
The way the equipment failures happen at the most critical moments is deeply unsettling. It feels less like a malfunction and more like a warning.
After the break, we will follow the search team toward the dry lake bed, open another declassified document from the file, and give the case one grounded question without losing sight of how strange the official record really is. Juniper and Chris will send it over to you.
The lights over Tehran were strange enough to send fighter jets into the night, but the real terror began when the pilots realized their aircraft might not be entirely under their control. Whatever was waiting in the darkness seemed to know exactly how close they were getting.
Thanks, Matt. So far, we have civilian calls, 2 fighter jets, a radar lock systems failures, colored lights, and smaller objects apparently separating from a larger one over Tehran. I have a feeling a few listeners are wondering whether they would have had the nerve to climb into that second Phantom after hearing what happened to the first crew. I am not sure I would have volunteered. Chris, take us through the mid-show break.
Cheers, June. I am still stuck on the idea that the Phantom only seemed to come back to life after it turned away from the object. If you are enjoying the case, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the algorithms find the show. We are on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast directories. At shadowfrequencypodcast.com, you will find every episode, the companion blog, merch, show notes, and links to every platform. You can buy us a coffee there, or send an email or voice message that may appear on a future episode. Back to you, June.
Thanks, Chris. Time to wake up the spectrocosmic message materializer. I am easing the brass lever forward. The little green dial is twitching, and something appears to be drifting through the static with a faint trace of desert dust around the edges.
Message retrieved from the void.
Let's open it carefully and see who found their way through tonight. This message comes from Tammy in Arizona. Says, "Hi, Shadow Frequency crew. I usually listen on Pandora after sunset while sitting outside on my back patio. Once the desert heat finally backs off and everything gets quiet enough that every little rustle in the yard sounds suspicious. UFO stories are my favorite, especially the ones involving military witnesses, and I always enjoy the haunting episodes too. Thanks for keeping me company under the stars. Keep watching the empty spaces. Tammy." Tammy, thanks for listening. A quiet Arizona patio under the stars sounds like the perfect setting for the Shadow Frequency, although tonight's episode may make those empty spaces feel a little less empty. This one's for you. Listeners can send an email anytime to shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Chris, let's turn it back over to you for the Shadow News.
Cheers, June. Tammy has the perfect listening setup for this one. Sitting outside under an Arizona sky while we talk about lights that do not behave themselves is either ideal atmosphere or a very good reason to keep one eye on the stars. A troubling case out of New Mexico has taken a tragic turn after authorities confirmed that remains found in Carson National Forest belong to Melissa Casillas, a 53-year-old administrative assistant from Los Alamos National Laboratory, who disappeared in June of 2025. State police say a handgun was found near the remains, but the cause and manner of death have not yet been determined. Her case is one the FBI has been examining alongside other deaths and disappearances involving workers tied to sensitive government labs, though any connection remains unproven. One of the oldest mysteries tied to Peru's famous Paracas skulls may be staying unsolved for a while longer. A recent Liberty University research project tried extracting DNA from the teeth of the elongated skulls, hoping to learn more about their origins. But the recovered material was too limited to produce meaningful genetic answers. That means the debate over whether these unusual skulls reflect ancient cultural practices or something far more exotic is still very much alive. June, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Chris. Two very different stories, but both leave us with that familiar feeling that the deeper you reach into certain mysteries, the more the answers seem to slide just beyond your fingertips. And Tammy, I suspect a quiet evening under the Arizona sky may feel a little bit different after this episode. Matt, let's return to Tehran. The pilots have survived the night, but the file is not finished with them yet.
The Tehran UFO incident is not simply a story about something unusual in the sky. It is a story about trained military pilots confronting an unknown presence that appeared to interfere with their instruments, their communications, and possibly even their ability to defend themselves.
Thanks, Juniper and Tammy. Listening under that Arizona sky feels strangely appropriate tonight because this entire case begins with ordinary people doing the simplest possible thing, stepping outside and noticing that something above them does not belong there. Chris, those news items are another reminder that some mysteries do not end cleanly. They sit in the file cabinet and wait for a new page. The Tehran file does exactly that. In daylight, the F-4 crew is flown by helicopter toward the area where the descending light appeared to settle. The location turns out to be a dry lake bed. There is no obvious wreckage, no scorched crater, no metallic object waiting in the dust. But as the helicopter circles west of the area, the crew picks up a strong beeper signal. They follow it toward a small house with a garden. The people there reportedly describe a loud noise during the night and a brilliant light, something they compare to lightning. Plans are made to check the aircraft in the area for possible radiation, but the declassified message ends before it gives us those results, leaving the daylight search hanging over the case like an unfinished sentence. Here's the second item I pulled from the file. It's a 3-page article titled "Now You See It, Now You Don't," written by Captain Henry S. Shields and preserved in the declassified collection. The pages are stamped, smudged, and marked confidential, with the kind of uneven type that makes the story feel even stranger. It retells the Tehran encounter for a military audience interested in jamming and interference. What catches my eye is the tone. It does not announce extraterrestrials. It does not pretend to solve the case. It says pilots sometimes encounter strange, unusual happenings that are not adequately or entirely explained by logic or later investigation, and that no additional explanation had been forthcoming. That is a remarkably eerie place for a military retelling to stop. The object was seen by civilians, fighters were launched, equipment failed near the light and recovered when aircraft moved away. A radar lock was reported, smaller lights separated from the larger one. A civil aircraft also reportedly lost communications in the area. The story is not frightening because somebody added a monster after the fact. It is frightening because the paperwork itself keeps returning to the same invisible boundary in the sky. Now this is the point where we owe the case one grounded question because a mystery this famous picks up layers as it travels. Skeptical writers, most notably Philip J. Klass, argued that the opening light may have been a bright astronomical object, often identified as Jupiter, while mechanical problems and stressful nighttime interpretation could explain at least some of what followed. That is worth putting on the table. Fighter aircraft can suffer electrical issues. A bright planet can look uncanny near the horizon. Human beings, even trained ones, can connect separate events into a single story when the adrenaline is high. But that explanation has to stretch itself across the full reported sequence. It has to account for the first Phantom systems returning after it turned away. It has to sit beside the second crew's radar report and the moving 25-mile separation. It has to live with the smaller luminous object apparently approaching the jet at speed. The weapons control failure at the moment the pilot prepared to fire, the communications interruption reported by a civil airliner, the descending light near the dry lake bed, and the household describing a bright flash and noise. A simple explanation may be part of the answer, but the official record still feels as though several ordinary doors have been stacked together to conceal one very unusual room. And that is why I am careful with the phrase UFO dogfight. It sounds fantastic and it makes for a sharp headline, but the documented story is creepier when we keep it clean. 2 F-4 Phantoms were sent toward an unidentified light over Tehran. One crew reported systems failure on approach and recovery after withdrawal. The second crew reported radar contact, colored lights, an object emerging from the primary light, A weapons panel failure, lost communications, and an evasive dive. Then another object appeared to descend toward the ground without the explosion the crew expected. On final approach, there was a report of the cylinder-shaped object passing overhead. The next day, a helicopter search found no obvious landing site, but did locate that beeper signal near a home where occupants remembered the night. None of that proves an alien spacecraft. It does, however, leave us with a pattern that feels intelligent from inside the cockpit: approach, warning, pursuit, retreat, reunion. The most disturbing possibility is not that the Iranian pilots chased something they could not identify. It is that the unknown object appeared to decide exactly how close they were permitted to get. Almost 50 years later, Tehran remains one of those cases that refuses to flatten into a neat little story. It happens in a city where every unexplained aircraft carried national security weight, under a government watching the sky in the pressure cooker of the Cold War. The witnesses were not all in one place. The reported encounter moved from civilian telephone calls to a command post, from the command post to the first Phantom, from the first Phantom to a second fighter crew, from the sky to radar, from radar to electronic failures, from the larger light to smaller objects, and finally from the air to a quiet house near a dry lake bed. Maybe that chain contains mistakes. Maybe time and repetition have sharpened some edges, but the original declassified report already contains the bones of the story, and those bones are strange enough. Somewhere over Tehran, a luminous object drew military jets into the darkness, interfered with their systems as they closed in, and left behind a question that still pulses like a warning light on an empty instrument panel. The case ends where it began, with people looking up, realizing the sky is not empty, and wondering whether something up there noticed them first. The Tehran incident does not hand us a clean answer. It gives us something more uncomfortable, a documented night when pilots climbed toward an unknown light and seemed to discover that the light could reach back.
That is what will stay with me. The crew did not merely fail to identify something. They reported that their aircraft stopped cooperating when they got too close to it.
And even after daylight returned, the mystery refused to leave anything simple behind. No obvious wreckage, no tidy explanation, just a dry lake bed, a beeper signal, and a house where people remembered a flash in the night.
Exactly. Whatever happened over Tehran, it left enough behind it to keep the case alive and just enough missing to keep it in the shadows. Juniper, the file's yours.
Some UFO encounters leave behind blurry photographs and uncertain memories. The Tehran incident left behind radar reports, military documentation, and a chilling question: what could disable a fighter jet without ever firing a shot?
Thanks, Matt. Tonight we followed the Tehran UFO incident from the first civilian telephone calls in Shamaran to the Phantom jets climbing into the night. The reported electronic interference, the radar lock, the smaller luminous objects, and the daylight search near a dry lake bed. It is a case wrapped in Cold War tension, military paperwork, and one deeply unsettling question: what happens when the unknown does not simply appear in the sky, but seems to react when we approach it? Thanks for spending part of your night with us here on the Shadow Frequency. We'll be back soon with another strange case waiting somewhere just beyond the edge of the signal. You guys want to say goodnight?
Good night, everybody. Keep your eyes on the sky, but maybe do not get too close to anything that seems to be watching you back.
Good night from me as well. Stay curious, stay safe, and keep a little distance between yourself and any mysterious lights hovering over the horizon.
Good night, listeners. Until next time, keep the signal steady, leave a light on near the window, and remember that some things in the darkness may already know exactly where you are.
This episode was conjured with a solemn vow to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative and offered only for your enlightenment and your entertainment.